Good afternoon, and a really, really warm welcome to you all from this special This Can Happen open webinar on mental fitness, the power of music as a wellness tool. I'm really, really excited to be facilitating this session with Julia. Hello, Julia. This is very different to what we've done before, and I think it's going to be absolutely great. So just wanted to quickly thank our partners, GSK, Allen & Overy, and Northern Trust for helping us put on this session for you today. We're really grateful. No one needs me to tell them how a webinar works, especially at the moment, but just to say, we will, Julie will speak to you before, we will do half an hour. This session is being recorded, so please don't worry if you miss anything, because you will receive the webinar as you experienced it today by email in 24 hours. And I think that is enough for me. So without further ado, it gives me really, really great pleasure to hand it over to Julia.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone, thanks for joining us. We're going to be going through an absolute ton of stuff today. It just so happens that my new book, Neuron, is launched today because the dates got moved around, and so this is also the day that my book is live, and we'll be digging into a lot of science in this session, looking at smart wellness in particular, so the latest science, which is fascinating, but also how music fits into that science as a biohack to drive mental health and physical health in general. Now, as humans, we are very musical. We're born musical. We've been musical since very, very ancient times. The oldest instrument that's been found to date is 40,000 years old approximately, and is a flute carved from bone, which is quite a complicated instrument to make. So we can be pretty sure that way further back than 40,000 years, our ancestors were using music to communicate, using things like body percussion. I like to think that our our ancient relatives were doing their equivalent of Michael Jackson sort of body percussion, sitting around, getting musical together, doing their own version of Michael Jackson or whoever the hit artists of the ancient era were. But what we're going to look at today is what happens in the brain when we present music, because the thing that I like to remind everyone is that the brain doesn't lead, the ears, don't lead to a black hole or a brick wall or a dead end. The ears lead to the brain, and therefore they create electrochemical responses, and which is why they're so highly effective. So without further ado, we are going to go at the speed of sound through these slides, excuse the pun. So let's kick off. Susie, you're in the driving seat. So let's start with this fact. I've spent the last year and a half researching in detail why decades of diet and fitness trends did not produce healthy nations. And this was even before the global pandemic, okay? I came from a sport and exercise science background, and in the 90s, we were utterly convinced that we would create a healthy population, and that did not happen. Billions of dollars promoting and telling people about diet and exercise and fitness has not produced healthy nations. And the science clearly shows why that has happened. And we're going to delve into this throughout these slides and show where music sits within this whole narrative. So if we move forward, we've basically been giving people the wrong recommendations. And it's not that the recommendations don't work, but the recommendations in most cases are not efficient. And because they're inefficient and they take a lot of effort and a lot of time, they are very hard to stick to, and people tend to give up. So a lot of the diet and fitness results are short term, and they're not lifestyle changes that result in lifelong wellness. So the science has moved on, and so will we. To the next slide. So there is a new movement called smart wellness, which is a mix of scientific knowledge, tech, and lots of efficient biohacks and ways of staying well, maintaining our optimal circuits. Music is one of those biohacks because the ears lead to the brain, and so it stimulates brain chemicals and different brain states. Most of the leading scientists around the world are using these smart wellness principles now. A lot of hacking techniques around fasting, intermittent fasting, different self-hypnosis, methods of focus. We'll look at this in detail. Tim Spector looks at, in detail at the gut microbiome aspect. David Eagleman at Stanford is looking very much at how to reprogram areas of the brain for sound and also around self-hypnosis. David Sinclair at Harvard is also looking at intermittent fasting and how to use specific smart wellness techniques and the control of inflammation to drive our healthy lifespan to 100 years and beyond. But they're all in agreement that it's a 360-degree approach. Smart wellness is about the whole brain and body because it's all connected as one. You can't achieve health in one aspect and not in the other. You need to approach the whole thing as a single unit. So let's move on. So why should you listen to me? Some of you might already know me, maybe from my sport and exercise days when I was working with Olympic teams, in elite sport. You might know me from my first book, The Music Diet, which showed all of the science around why music and sound produces all these multiple health and wellness benefits. Or you may have worked with me more recently in other dementia work or whatever. I have spent 30 years examining the physiology, the neurobiology, the psychology of what happens when we present sound. Originally, I did this with the Olympic teams and elite sport, and you will, I'm sure, have seen athletes wearing headphones before competition, and there is a reason they do that. An athlete that pays attention to every molecule that goes in their mouth in terms of extreme detail around nutrition would not be feeding any old music into their ears moments before intense competition that they've been training for years. They do it because it has a very, very powerful effect. And those effects don't just drive high performance, they can also be used to drive wellness. So if we move forward. So we're going to look at music and sound to maintain our a number of biological circuits and how to actually reduce our biological age, which is possible. You can measure it and you can reverse it. Next slide. So let's start with the brain. Neurons are our nerve cells. They are how we are experiencing the world. So they're taking information from the outside environment, from vision, touch, sound, transcoding that into electrical and chemical information, that impulses that they're passing to each other at super fast speed. If you think this is Billie Eilish on stage, if you think that she is one neuron, all those other people are other neurons, imagine that there are 100 billion of those neurons. And imagine as they're holding out their hands and their fingers, then they have got 30,000 fingers each, okay? Because our neurons can have up to 30,000 synaptic connections with other neurons. So that's trillions and trillions and trillions of connections in the brain. The brain is the most sophisticated structure in the universe, but we have ways of controlling it. So the smart wellness movement is very much about learn how these biological circuits work, and then understand how to put in biohacks like natural light, intermittent fasting, music to optimize those biological circuits. Next slide. So look at this in a bit more detail. One of the reasons that music is so powerful is that it is a highly complex information processing activity. it's, especially if you're in a live event or if you're playing a musical instrument or watching someone playing a musical instrument, it activates almost every part of the brain. So it's an extremely complex task. It helps stimulate key neurochemicals that make us feel good, that give us our reward response in the brain. It also helps build new connections between brain cells, so it can help drive brain health throughout life. So it's a really underused tool, and that is something that in my work I try and sort of get this knowledge out, so that people understand that music is much more than entertainment. Next slide. So what we're going to do for the next 15 minutes is whiz around this smart wellness circle. This is the wheel of wellness, and I'm going to show you how music fits into each pillar. And the circles are, in the inside bit, the green is about knowledge. So key to maintaining wellness throughout life is understanding how your basic biology works, because if you don't understand how your reward system works in the brain and how dopamine works in the brain, or serotonin, or how your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system react, and how cortisol and our stress hormone gets triggered, then it's very difficult for you to optimize and keep those maintained if you don't understand how they work. So the first step is to understand basic biology. Outside of that is the biohacking tools. So there are a number of techniques, such as breathing techniques, music, natural daylight, imagination, visualization, self-hypnosis, intermittent fasting, certain focusing techniques. All of these things optimize those biological circuits. And then on the outer ring, we are now living in the world of smart wellness tech. So there's a ton of wearables. I've got one on my finger right now. That Oura ring is telling me about my sleep, my heart rate variability, my heart rate, my respiration, my temperature. It's something that is continuously giving me feedback. And then that helps me see the impact of, if I have a change in routine, I understand how that impacts my biological systems. And this is very much the future of wellness. It addresses why the historic, the trends of the past decades didn't work, and it produces more efficient techniques. Next slide. So music, let's whiz around the wheel. You might think, well, how does music sit in the consuming sort of food and drink, eating and drinking segment, pillar of wellness? Well, most of us are addicted to the wrong foods, the wrong eating habits, eating at the wrong time of day, eating the wrong things, habitually popping to the supermarket. And when I mentioned earlier about the elite athletes wearing headphones before competition, when you're in a stadium and you're so athletic stadium, for example, putting your headphones on puts you in a different place. It builds an auditory sort of protective cocoon. It's a bubble. You're creating a bubble through audio, and we have started using these with when people are going into supermarkets, because supermarkets are using brain science to influence our decisions. This is not blaming them, that's just how it is, that's how it works. And so we're doing some interesting research helping people break those addictive habits, stay focused on a shopping list and nothing else, by just going in, wearing headphones, listening to a playlist while they're going through that shopping list. Also using things like intermittent fasting, timed eating, and gut microbiome test, which is absolutely an essential test. If you're looking to spend some money, then that is an amazing investment, is to get a gut microbiome test, so you can see exactly what foods you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. Next slide. Breathing, music plays into this a lot, because part of the the power of our breath and our breathing techniques is that it is one of the power switches of the vagus nerve. So if you want to quickly switch off a stress response, switch back into a parasympathetic, put on that parasympathetic brake to stop the stress response and sit back into rest, repair and digest mode, then breathing is the way to do it, to slow down your breath in through your nose, longer exhales if you can, to really slow down the heart rate, get into that optimized synchronization between your respiration and your heart rate. So music obviously is based around tempo, and therefore it is a natural tool for timing breathing practices. And if I said to you, I want you to breathe for 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes at a certain rate, that can feel like a very long time. If you do it to a piece of music, it's much easier, and it's much easier to maintain a tempo. So if you're using even ratio breathing, so 5 or 6 seconds, really slow inhales and exhales, you can really get into that by using a piece of music. It's a bit more difficult if you're using ratio breathing, because tempo tends to be 4/4, or it's not 4/6 necessarily, although that does exist. And singing as well. So singing and the vibrational effect that you get around the chest cavity is a great exercise for vagal tone, as well as breath and lung capacity and everything else, and triggering positive brain chemicals. Next. So we can also get in control by using sound and music to maintain certain brain states. So slowing down the frequencies in our brain waves, dropping down into alpha, further down into theta, and practicing going from our different brain states, focus, back down into relaxation, into deep relaxation, not sleep, trying to stay out of sleep. There's a superb mind tool to be able to teach yourself to go in and out of those different brain states, and sound is a great way to do that. And also a lot of the new tech that's coming out now is using vibrations, so converting sound into vibrations. Some of the wearables I've got here are triggering the vagus nerve using sound vibrations through the wrist and through the ankle. And that's a whole wave of new technology that's coming out onto the consumer market now. That pebble on the right hand side as well, same thing. Wear it around your chest, wear it around your neck on a pendant, it sits on your chest. Next. And then moving, when I started in sport and exercise science, my research was looking at how to use fast, upbeat tempo to increase endurance. So help people run for longer, cycle for longer, lift heavier weights, really pushing that and pushing those boundaries more and more and more, increasing cardiovascular fitness, increasing strength. That does not lead to wellness, it turns out. That just leads to increased fitness, which is different. Now we know these things. If you're training for something, then yes, definitely you need to do all those things. But if you're aiming for wellness, which is avoiding illness, in other words, you don't need super levels of fitness. You could get away with doing very little. In fact, you just need to move regularly. So we encourage people to think of sound not just as music, but also as nature, because when your brain hears the sounds of nature, as long as it's not the sound of a lion running towards you, if it's just generally the sounds of nature, of birds and the sea or water, the gentle breeze rustling through the leaves, then the brain is being given signals of safety, switching on your parasympathetic nervous system, relaxation response, and walking and moving regularly is key. If you want to take it a step further, then rapid glycogen depletion is what the science is pointing to now. So it's about not just plodding along on the treadmill, it's about high intensity work. That bike on the left-hand side of the screen uses artificial intelligence and sound to trigger your sympathetic nervous system, high intensity, 20 seconds, so that your glycogen stores in your muscles deplete really rapidly, sending a signal to the brain that it needs to trigger the adaptive response to build new tissue in case we're ever in that position again. And then dancing, obviously, you know, we automatically move to the music. Some of us can move better than others, but we all do automatically. You'll find yourself nodding your head or tapping your foot or tapping your finger. We automatically move to it. So adding in dancing is one of the easiest ways to inject a bit of movement into your day. Those cups there, I switched my coffee cups from a big mug to a small mug, and now I have to get up more often to fill it up. You know, really simple hacks. I put my printer upstairs, so now when I print something I have to go upstairs. Instead, it used to be sitting next to me on the desk. So we can hack our environment as well as our different fitness routines. Next slide. Sleep is just an unbelievably vital pillar. I cannot emphasize this enough. That we used to think that nothing happened when we went to sleep, but everything is happening when we go to sleep. Even when you look at fitness and movement, the growth factor that is released by the brain for rebuilding those muscles and strength, that happens in deep, slow wave sleep. We need high quality sleep to consolidate memories, for learning, for cleansing out toxins. Our brain is really, really busy, as is our body, when we're asleep. And we neglect sleep and neglect it at your peril. Music is one of the easiest ways to slow your brain down in the evening so that you're more likely to slip into delta, you know, through theta into delta, slow wave brain frequencies into sleep, high quality sleep. Going to the gym late at night, so many people say, oh, I go after work and I go and I do a workout or high intensity class late at night. You're putting yourself in a highly brightly lit environment with pounding songs, you know, the sound of danger late at night. That's not helping get into that sort of sleep mode. Same with the light, you know, in the evening, using natural daylight, go outside as early as possible, get natural daylight onto your retina, and those cells at the back of your retina are wired to your suprachiasmatic nuclei, which is a great name for a band, but it also controls melatonin release because it inhibits the pineal gland. So the earlier you get out in the morning to get some natural light, the better, because it sets your sleep timer. And then in the evening, rather than going to a gym with bright lights, you should be dimming your lights, using low-level table lamps in your home, not bright lights overhead that mimic the sun, that tell your brain it's day when it's night. If you have to use your screens, use blue light blocker glasses. If you're really addicted to screens in the nighttime, you know, trying to optimize and keep these biological circuits maintained, because they're ancient. They don't understand the modern world that we've created. So with sound, it's like, is this a sound of safety or is this a sound of danger? Next slide. And then plasticity, so maintaining these circuits. There's two elements to this. So maintaining our brain tissue, because just as our muscle tissue declines throughout our life, if we don't maintain it by keeping moving or standing up more or doing super slow motion strength work to try and trigger that adaptive response slowly so that the load is never off the muscles. The same thing we need to do with brain tissue. Brain tissue declines throughout life, and poor habits accelerate that decline. So plasticity and boosting positive plasticity in the brain to maintain and build new connections is an essential part of a wellness program. And it's not just about doing crosswords. Crosswords are great, helping you recall memories of words that you already know and vocabulary to build new connections. The best ways to do that is learning a language or learning a musical instrument. And learning a musical instrument is complex, right? Even just like this kind of thing. It's surprising how difficult that, just doing that alone in time to some music when you start off. Then when you start doing other, you know, adding in your feet as well, it's an extremely highly complex task. Same learning an instrument, doesn't matter what instrument it is, guitar, trumpet, whatever. It's the best exercise you can do for your brain. And then on the right hand side there, habit stacking. The best way to be able to maintain a wellness program is by stacking little habits, like, you know, putting different types of music on, like going outside early to get natural light in your eyes. Attach them to other things that you already do. So for example, I always let my dog out in the morning. I used to just open the door and let him go out. Now I go out with him for a few minutes, so I get natural daylight onto my retina really early in the morning. That alone had a massive impact on my sleep quality. It's amazing how small things can make a huge difference. Next slide. So all of this is proven. The World Health Organization recognized music as a proven wellness tool, but there is a huge barrier that exists around this because people have an unconscious bias around the word music. I get it every day when people go, oh, music, yeah, I love music, it's fun, it's entertaining, and often people miss the vital wellness value of music because it has been positioned by the music industry as entertainment. And it's much, much more than that. It's sound, and sound that goes into your ears and through your skin as vibration creates electrochemical responses in your brain that optimize important biological circuits. Next slide. So that is it from me. My book is out today, as I said, and the other book, The Music Diet, is available. There's a lot more stuff around this smart wellness, these smart wellness principles on the website. Please do get in touch with me if this is of interest. I'm super keen to get this knowledge out to people because we're still giving people the wrong recommendations, inefficient recommendations that haven't worked in the past, and they're not going to work in the future. We need to disrupt what we were doing, get off the hamster wheel and start using the latest science and the tech and biohacks such as music, sound, light, fasting techniques to really produce healthy populations. So I hope you learned something in this session. Thanks very much for joining us, and thank you for inviting me to present some of my work.
Oh, Julia, that was absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. That is amazing. I think we've got about 3 minutes, so a couple of interesting questions have come in that I'm just going to ask you, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Does what we listen to before we sleep make a difference, even if it's our favourite genre? Does it make a difference?
Make a difference to sleep quality?
Yes, I'm assuming so, yes.
Well, it depends. So it depends whether your favourite music is thrash metal or relaxing, slow, classical. Think of it in terms of sound, and think of the time where we lived in the natural environment and how our brain is programmed to receive and understand sound. Is that sound threatening? Is it a potential threat? Fast, loud beats, right? That's a potential threat. Soft, slow, calming beats are the sound that are probably safety. And so that if you're trying to sleep, then relaxing sounds, even white noise, you know, the sound in water, or some people like to listen to pink noise, brown noise, binaural beats, whatever works best for you. But I would suggest that high impact music is not benefiting in terms of slowing down your brain waves to get into a sleep state. That doesn't mean to say that you might not fall asleep, but you might fall asleep because you're actually sleep deprived. And so despite the fact that the music isn't actually helping, you're falling asleep anyway because you're so tired, which you know, is not an ideal state to be in either, which is why these, you know, all the different monitors now and the wearables that can really show you the quality of sleep are one of the best ways that you can spend your money.
Oh, thank you. Right, I'm going to ask one more question because this is interesting. If you are already a musician, i.e. you've learnt instruments since you were a small child, would learning a new instrument be as effective support maintaining your brain, or will your brain have desensitized to the power of what learning an instrument can do?
So everything we do creates new patterns of networks of neurons connecting with each other to do something. So the key to plasticity is novelty. So if you already play an instrument, learn a new technique, right? So I've been playing guitar since I was about 8. The past 12 months in lockdown, I've been teaching myself to play lead guitar solos, which is extremely difficult. Even though I've been playing guitar for decades, lead guitar solos are a whole level of complexity for me. So I found that really, really difficult. And again, learning a new instrument that you've never played before, if it's novelty and you're going back to that beginner status, then you're building new connections and you're helping your brain just go through that process of laying down new neuronal networks around that particular skill.
That is amazing, Julia. Now, I know we only had half an hour, so I am going to finish now. So a few people have asked about the webinar. Just to reiterate, you will receive this by email, so please don't worry if you've missed anything. And then finally, a really short questionnaire should pop up on your screen when I end the webinar shortly. We'd be really grateful if you wouldn't mind feeding it in, because your feedback's really important to us. Julia, did you have anything you just wanted to say very quickly, because I'm going to end the webinar now?
No, just thanks very much. I hope that this inspired you to embed some or think about your daily routines and how much of this stuff that you're already doing and what you could insert into it to get more wellness benefits from it. So thanks very much.
Thank you, and thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us. We're really grateful. Have a lovely rest of the sunny, beautiful day. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to now end the webinar. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.